ranked as a top-tier employment attorney, featured on CNN Money, numerous awards for Best Employment Law, a fierce advocate fighting for your legal needs.
Welcome to Legal Views with your host, Attorney Sheila R. Stuart.
Thank you so much, Darryl Breath, all the way in Boston, Massachusetts, C Joy Network. We want to thank you for tuning in on today. You are listening to Legal Views with Attorney Sheila R. Stuart. We are celebrating our 1-year anniversary in partnership with C Joy Network. We want to thank Donnie Savage for this wonderful opportunity to partner with him over the last year with Legal Views with Attorney Sheila R. Stuart. We are located in Clayton, Missouri, 231 South Beamiston Avenue, Suite 800. And that zip code there it is, Clayton, Missouri, 63105. We want to thank you for being with us throughout 2021. We've had some great guests, we've had some great shows, and we've had some faithful followers that have done a wonderful job just following us and commenting and sending us emails and thanking us for the material that we have presented in 2021. On today, we have an outstanding guest in the studio with us, Pastor Keith Clinton, and he hails from St. Louis, Missouri, but he is an international businessman and a preacher here in St. Louis. He is going to share some valuable information with you as it relates to business opportunities in the country of Ghana, on the continent of Africa, and some of the very interesting and innovative things that he is doing to promote business and partnership in Ghana. Welcome, Pastor Keith Clinton. How are you on this evening?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Attorney Stuart. How are you?
I'm doing great. And it is so wonderful to have you in the studio on this evening. I want to thank you for taking the time out to be with us on this evening. How was your trip to Ghana?
It was wonderful. It was an amazing trip, blessed trip, prosperous trip. So I'm excited to return, hopefully in the early part of 2022.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, we want to hear about this trip. On this evening, we are going to do a year in review. We're going to talk about some of the most interesting news stories that have taken place in 2022. And we're going to get Pastor Keith Clinton's ideals or thoughts on some of these news stories. Now, we don't want you, Pastor Clinton, to hide the 8 ball. We want to hear your opinion because you come from an international perspective on many business and news issues. And so for our viewers and listeners, can you tell us about where your church is located and tell us about the type of business that you have and what you're currently doing?
Sure. My church is called Promised Land Christian Church. We're located at 3514 Evans, St. Louis, Missouri. And I've been pastoring for over 20 plus years.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. Well, I've been in ministry for about 20 years, and I've been pastoring for about 12 to 13 of those years.
Well, that's still a long time.
Yeah. I'm grateful. And also the owner of KC Productions, which we are a multimedia production company. We specialize in video production, documentary films, film projects, so a variety of video and television content we create for small to mid-sized businesses. We also create social media content, flyers, videos, you name it, from A to Z. We are well equipped to help small to mid-sized businesses as well as individuals to reach their target market.
How long have KC TV been in business? How long have you been doing the productions company?
Well, I've been doing production wow, over 30 years. I started off as in high school, actually taking photography classes. And then when I went to the University of Central Missouri, I took up television and film and public relations. And from there, I worked a number of years. Well, I'm still in education as well with the St. Louis Special School District. And I used those years to build my company as well.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, tell us how you plan to connect in business and social media as it relates to Ghana.
Well, I had a vision and a plan that originally that I wanted to do here in the States. However, the market is pretty flooded right now with film, multimedia studios like the Tyler Perry studios. And I felt that taking my idea to Africa and specifically Ghana would be a perfect place. I pitched the idea to an executive at one of the organizations in Ghana. I think they're part of the government agencies, and they thought it was a great idea. I was invited over to Ghana to speak at an investment forum,
Okay.
and on that trip, I also preached at one of the churches. I think Archbishop Duncan's church, one of his churches, and that entire week, the rest of the week, I was in a forum, investment forum, speaking on building, developing a multi-media film and television studio in Ghana. They love the idea. I have the support behind me, and we're looking forward to moving forward with that particular project. But well, in addition, not but in addition, I met a wonderful, brilliant man who has done so much globally. He liked the idea, and we connected on several levels, and now we're in partnership, and that's none other than Dr. Thomas Mincer. He is the individual who's responsible for us doing things like this through social media because he's one of the founders of fiber optics and nanotechnology. But also, he created Silicon Valley of Ghana. So he's well connected globally. He liked my presentation. We connected, and we're moving forward on some projects as I speak.
That is amazing. That is amazing. First and foremost, we would like to congratulate you on such a huge business venture that you have been given this great opportunity to be in charge of and to work with and develop these partnerships. Can you tell us some of the media or TV developments that you have in mind for Ghana and how that partnership will work within the United States as well as with the individuals of Ghana?
Well, I understand that film and television is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and there's a lot of talent and filmmakers, creators in Ghana who simply need, more opportunities to share their creativity. And I thought it would be a great idea to partner with the diocese here and Ghanaians to collaborate on a variety of projects. I mean, it's happening across the board as I speak, but I thought this would be a great opportunity to begin to collaborate in areas of television, film, and the creative arts. And also during that presentation, that opened up many other doors in other industries for me to collaborate and partner with, from fashion to imports to export different products. So I mean, there's a vast opportunity for entrepreneurs and business-minded individuals to collaborate in different countries in Africa. But
Yeah,
I
that sounds very interesting. So, an individual that's watching this and they say, well, that sounds awesome, but how do I develop the capital to go to Ghana? how do I develop the business plan to get involved in some of these opportunities? And where do I go to get started in researching these issues so that I can capitalize on great opportunities such as you have with your media and studio?
Well, I think it's important to really be inspired. I don't think it's wise to just do it because someone else is doing it,
Mhm.
but you have to be inspired. And I think all of the resources that you need, just from writing a business plan, is right around you. Um, but you have to have a mindset to expand beyond where you are. I didn't come from, a wealthy background financially, but I had the vision, I had the tenacity, I had the discipline, and to utilize the resources that was already around me,
Mhm.
and to leverage that. So, I mean, just start with the basics. If you have an idea, write it down. Um, build build healthy relationships were extremely important. Um, just use the resources around you. Talk to people, network, and that's what I've been doing for a number of years. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a few years. However, the opportunities at this level just began to open up for me.
Okay, can you share with us how it opened up for you, how this great opportunity came about, and how you had the faith to move forward, to step out and do some of the things that you are currently involved with in business?
Well, I've always believed that I would be an international speaker, business person, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. But I think through uh, commitment and faith, most of all faith, I knew I was going to get there one day. Actually, I was just meditating and praying for opportunities, and one came through uh, connecting through social media.
Hmm.
There was an individual that I connected with that was from the continent of Africa, and
Hmm.
specifically Ghana. He started researching me from one of our social media pages. And as he researched me, he reached out to me and asked me, he said, would you be interested in coming to Ghana to speak on an investment forum? And I began to make excuses. Uh,
Hmm.
and I said, I messaged him back. I said, well, you do know I'm not a Fortune 500 company, not a Tyler Perry. He said, I don't care. He says, I researched you. You are the man. So I messaged him back. I said, you sure? I said, well, it's maybe be a difficult time for me, not be a good time for me because of COVID and this and that. I didn't really have the money, but he insisted. He said, you are the man. So I yelled out to my wife, and at night I said, "Hey, here's this opportunity. You think this is the real deal, or is this a hoax?" She said, "Pray about it." I prayed about it, and I prayed about it, and I felt the unctioning and okay of the Holy Spirit that says, "Go for it." And at that point, I realized it was important for me to uh, recalibrate and think about what I used to think about years ago about me reaching out and expanding my ministry and business outside of the U.S. And that was a conviction. The Holy Spirit said, "Don't ever compare yourself with anyone else, or and make sure that you don't um, see yourself as being small because you're
Hmm.
not there yet. Uh, don't ever say that you're a small business again." And I was convicted by that. And at that point, I messaged them. I said, "Hey, let's make it happen." But internally, I said, "Well, okay, God, how are we going to make this happen? I don't have much money." But He provided everything that I needed, and He erased all of the excuses that I had. I mean, to the T, erased all of the excuses. And I can recall a brief little story, a testimony. When I remember going to my day job, and it was like 7:40 in the morning. I was driving down the street, and I yelled out in the car. I said, "God, if this really you, I need to meet somebody from Ghana."
Okay.
And to make a long story short, at the end of that work day, I was supposed to go to a local store, and I wasn't for sure if I should go immediately after work or go home first. But I was led to go to the store. I sat in the car for about 3 to 5 minutes talking on the phone. And when I went into the store, I was talking to one of the owners, and there was a young lady out to the side. She says, "Aunt, I'm headed back to Africa in 2 weeks. I'll talk to you later." But I was moved instantly to stop, and and I told the young lady, I said, "Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude, but can I ask you what part of Africa you're from?" She said, "Ghana." I said, "Oh," and I was just blown away. It was just amazing. I said, "You know what? If I would have came in here a few minutes earlier or later, we would have missed each other." And I said, "You were sent here for me." I said, "You won't believe this." When I showed her my phone and the invitation and the flyer, I said, um, "I'm debating about going to Ghana." And she looked at the flyer and who was hosting. She said, "Hey, these are government agencies. You don't have anything to worry about. You'll be well taken care of." And so that was one of many confirmations that I knew that this was the moment that I had to cease. I couldn't make any excuses. I had to move on it just like that. I've never been out of the country other than Canada, for a few days. Um, I was back in the day, I was afraid of flying. So
Mhm.
God helped me to get over those fears.
Mhm.
And I had thoughts every once in a while for that long flight over the Atlantic Ocean. But he erased all of the fears, all of the concerns, and I moved, and it was one of the greatest moves I ever made outside of choosing Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. you know.
If you think in terms of what made it great, I know there were many moments and many people that you met, but what was that one business connection that you believe put your business on a new trajectory? Okay, in terms of moving it to the next dimension, the next level, what would that connection be?
There were several, but the one that stands out the most is really Dr. Thomas Mincer. I
Dr.
was walk.
Musa.
I hadn't seen him for on the news or anything for quite a few years. I
Mhm.
used to follow him whenever he would appear on like uh, BBC News or something like, or any of the local news, and I would just glue to the television or the radio, and people would ask me, "Why are you watching this? I mean, who is this? I mean, this guy's a scientist. What do you know about science? I mean, why are you so interested in this?" But I was. I didn't know that 30 years later that I was going to be invited to Ghana. Matter of fact, he lives part time here in the States,
Okay.
and he spends a lot of time in Ghana. Who knew 20 plus years later that I will be invited to Ghana, and I'm walking to the conference, and I looked to my left, and there was this older gentleman with a hat on. He was, doing something on his cell phone, and I only saw the bottom half of his face. And I immediately recognized him from somebody I seen 20 plus years earlier. And I instantly recognized him. I reached out to him. I talked with him. I told him, my story, how I used to follow him. And we just connected. And I told him that I will be speaking at the event. Um, he came back. He says, "Hey, man, I'm here to hear you speak." And I said, "Oh, you just made me nervous," because I knew who the magnitude of what he's done and who he was. Uh, so after that presentation, I got up. Well, before I presented, I told the audience, I says, I can't proceed without recognizing this great man who's
Mhm.
done so much for the entire world, and he's a Canadian. I said, none other than Dr. Thomas Mincer. That made him proud. I mean, he lit up. And after I got off the stage, we connected, and the rest is history.
That is outstanding. He is a phenomenal in technology and how technology has evolved down through the years
Mhm.
and the impact that he has made and what he has contributed to, like you stated, social media. and how we are able to connect, especially during COVID-19. All of the social media platforms became even more popular because we began to connect, and people began to see that I can be here in California, you can be in New York, and we can conduct all of these business meetings, and we can get it done without boarding an airplane, without getting first class accommodations. We can take care of business, even depositions. I was flying out of town to do depositions, and now COVID made it whereas you just get online and do the depositions and so forth. So his contributions are phenomenal. And the fact that you had an opportunity to meet this gentleman is even more outstanding. So an individual that's watching right now, and this is a different question, may sound similar. An individual that's watching right now, and they are excited to hear about this type of business. And again, they don't have the capital. And when a person hears an investment forum, that, I'm going to an investment forum, one of the first things they're going to think is, well, I need some money to invest. I need some money to get involved, right? How can individuals use their talent, use their professions to get involved and to make themselves available on these new platforms for business if they don't have the capital?
Well, let me say this. Faith without works is dead. You have to have faith. I can't maneuver around that. You have to have faith in God and faith in the gifts and talents that He's given you. All right. I often tell people we've been misguided in the sense that we've been taught in the Western world, that is to do things to make yourself look good without being it. In other words, fake it until you make it. And I want to reverse that in the sense is that you have to be it first in your mind, in your heart. Be who God has called you to be. Be it. Be it. Then begin to do it. And as you be it and do it, you begin to receive it. And I mean that to the utmost, is that I don't have millions of dollars in my bank account, but I believe I do. And I believe the presentation, it's important that when I traveled thousands of miles away from home, I was out of my comfort zone. I was not around people that I knew, but I do know the prompting of the Spirit of God to say, hey, be that. Remember to be who I've already called you to be. Be it now. And as I began to project confidence and faith, people began to respond. So there was investors in the room that was drawn to me based on what I believed who I was and what I was about. So I'm saying that money, there's no shortage of financing money. That's why it's called currency. Currency is flowing all around us. We just have to get in the way of it. And I believe when you began to get in the way of currency and get in the room by all means necessary. Get in the room where money is being exchanged, when people are doing business deals. No one knows what you have in your bank account. But if you're in the room, they assume that you're there for a purpose, not necessarily, listen, if you're in the room, you're blessed. I remember years ago as a young man, I can't remember who delivered the message, but they said you're blessed being in the room. They said, regardless of whether you are the waiter, the host, whatever, if you're in this room, you're blessed. You know what I'm saying? You didn't have to be the keynote speaker. You can be the waiter, the bus boy, whatever. Because if you're in the room, you're getting the same information people have paid hundreds of dollars to get in. So if I'm waiting tables, I'm getting the same information the person who paid the $500 or the $1,000 paid. So take it in. You can network, and that's what I used to do as a youngster. I used to network when I was a waiter, a bus boy, whatever, at some of the wealthiest hotels and restaurants. I listened. I start building relationship. I start asking questions. So when we're talking about not having the finance, stop telling yourself what you don't have and start telling yourself, oh, I got the finances, I got the resources. And that's what this is. I'm not saying anything new, but this is my most recent testimony and experience.
Mhm.
I didn't have at that time the money to pay for all of this. But as I was committed to going, the money start coming, resources start coming. I didn't have to ask anybody for anything. And so when I stepped in that room
Mhm.
in faith and confidence in who I was that person who I saw myself being, and people was drawn to that. And so now money and resources and opportunities are flowing to me based on who I believe I am.
I think that's monumental what you have just laid out, especially during this season that with these pandemics, many businesses. I am not saying that if a business saw themselves a particular way that they would have survived, but I am saying it is a step in the right direction
Mhm.
to survive, and that you have to see yourself, your business, as growing and not as a failure.
Mhm.
Many businesses closed up during the pandemic era, and many other businesses, they were thriving.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know the distinctions that some business may have had. They were probably or maybe in a very vulnerable position prior to the pandemic and so forth. But I do believe, as you have shared, the way that you will see yourself and project yourself and move in the direction of being successful, effective, and achieving the goals that you have laid out, I do believe that makes a difference. I believe that makes a difference in terms of being sustainable and going out of business.
Absolutely. I think you have to keep reinventing yourself.
Mhm.
You have to, and you have to go beyond the norm. Great people have to overcome all of those barriers. And I will be the first to admit, when COVID first hit, uh, my business just stopped cold. But then I said, wait a minute. We have social media, we have video content, audio content. And I said, this is the opportunity for me to thrive because everybody needed to communicate.
Mhm.
And so that was the perfect opportunity for me to not only to expand locally, but go beyond that. And that's international.
That's outstanding. And do you foresee, you say in the upcoming year, 2022, you also foresee yourself going back to Ghana? Can you tell us how that business trip, what your goals are for the next upcoming trip to Africa? Or
Well, I'm not at liberty to talk
okay,
about the details of that,
okay.
but it's huge. It's
Oh
huge.
wow.
That was another opportunity that I presented that my business partner, Dr. Mincer, loved. And he says, I'm in, let's make it happen. And so we are expecting to do something out the ordinary in I'll just say in the sports and entertainment.
Well, that is wonderful. And we love for you to come back in 2022 and share with us what those things are at that time. Because once you go over there and you start the process, then it becomes public. And once it's public and social media is involved, it's no longer private at that point. And we want you to come back. So let's switch our discussion briefly here and talk about some of the big issues that took place in 2021. And I want to get your take on some of these issues and how you see these issues and how you believe that they impacted the U.S., impacted individuals from all walks of life. And I just wanted to go over some of them with you. And I think that one of the big issues still is COVID-19
Mhm.
and the ongoing, confusion and understanding and lack of understanding of what people should do during the pandemic. So that would be one of the main issues that I think that is still ongoing. The January the 6th Capitol insurrection that happened at the very beginning of 2021 with the insurrection and, former President Trump not wanting him to leave office, that the that the election was stolen. And so many people ascended upon Washington, D.C. to stand against the fact that they believe that the election was stolen. The George Floyd ruling, the George Floyd murder that took place on film by Derek Chauvin, the police officer who kneeled on his neck allegedly for 9 minutes. That sentencing came down in 2021. Voter suppression, all of the ongoing issues as it relates to voting suppression and who can vote and how we're going to change some of the districts and redistrict so that individuals can and maybe not have an opportunity to vote. Okay, this is another big one. The Kyle Rittenhouse case. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 men allegedly in self-defense, killed 2, and was found not guilty on all charges. The Ahmaud Arbery trial. 3 white men were found guilty of the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. He was running and he was jogging and so forth. These men were under the impression that he had committed some type of a crime. They followed him, they chased him. An altercation ensued, and he unfortunately died from the shooting. The Michigan shooting, where we just had a 15-year-old whose parents were allegedly very negligent, gave him this gun for Christmas as an early Christmas present, and he shot and killed numerous individuals at a high school. And now the school and the parents are being charged, and the school and so forth now being sued civilly. And business growth, wealth transfer. That's very similar to what you have been speaking of as it relates to Ghana, because there's wealth there, there's business opportunities there, and the whole wealth transfer issue, I think, is one of the most hidden secrets in business today. So if you had to pick one of these stories, a couple of these stories, what would you start off as one of your big hot topics of 2021?
Well, I would like to say all of them are important issues that we must continue to address.
I'm sorry, I left off the abortion issue, which is huge. I left off the abortion.
That's difficult. They're all important, and they've all had an impact on this nation and around the world. But I would just kind of sum it up. I don't think I can just choose one, and I'm gonna allow you to kind of lead me on that one. But Proverbs 14:34 is righteousness exalts a nation, but sins bring a reproach to any people. I think people should choose what's right according to the scriptures and God's wisdom and knowledge. Take a side and continue to fight for righteousness and justice.
Very good. I actually like that response. If I had to choose one, and I agree with you, it would be very difficult for me to choose just one. But I would highlight the George Floyd case. I thought the George Floyd case shifted the trajectory of how individuals see police officers and giving them a pass of justice when an individual is claiming police brutality and injustice with police officers, and the whole issue of police immunities, where officers who are acting under the color of law, they are given a wide range of deference to make decisions of safety, oftentimes, that may lead to the death of an individual for a crime that is so de minimis that it was not even worth stopping a person for in many instances. It's the same issue with Mr. Floyd. He was accused of a $20 counterfeit bill. I mean, even if the bill was counterfeit, it was not worth his life. $20 bill wasn't worth his life. And I think the fact that this incident, this serious incident, was caught on film by this young teenager who won a Pulitzer honorary mention for her work in filming this incident. I think that was a huge, huge case, the ruling of that case, rather, in 2021, which sentenced Derek Chauvin, for his acts that he committed against George Floyd. He's found guilty of that. And that he could not just walk away under the color of law. And it sent them, and in my opinion, it sends a message to other police officers to say that if you cross the line, you will be held accountable. Absolutely. And you will be charged and sentenced to prison. That's the message that it sends. And when it sends that type of message, I think it will cause some police officers to change how they arrest, how they stop, and why they stop. And let me just say this. We all know that all police officers are not representative of Derek Chauvin. We know that there are some great officers out there, and they do a great job, and they place their lives on the line every day to keep others safe. But we're speaking in terms of those individuals that have abused the badge, that have abused their rights as officers and caused the death of other individuals. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm in agreement with all of that. It's important that after the protests, after being outraged, we have to continue to change the laws that allows bad police officers to act out in this way. So I'm not the expert at the legal issues and things like that, but I know that there are laws on the books that allow bad officers or police officers to act in this way. Again, we must focus on changing the laws. That's why we need people like you in place. And many others around the country that help change those laws. So use that same energy that we use on the streets in protesting, in the courtrooms, in legislation to change the laws. So that's all I can really say on that issue, because it's going to continue if we don't continue to change the laws.
Now you have a son. What do you think about the Arbery case in terms of a young African-American male running, exercising and being perceived as committing a crime, and it results in his death, his horrible death, his murder? What are your thoughts on that, and the fact that the three men that committed this heinous crime against Mr. Arbery, they were all found guilty of murder? What are your thoughts on that issue?
Well, by being in the South, I can definitely say that there's change happening. There's a shift in our culture in allowing these type of things to just go without judgment. So based on that case, we can see that something is changing, something is shifting. But we can't just continue to celebrate that victory, but continue to press in and change the laws, and as we change the mindset and culture of people when it comes to Black people in America. And yes, I am concerned for my son. He's a young teenager. He drives. He's out there in the world. And again, we have to change the laws, and while we're trying to change the mindset of people.
Have you ever given your son a talk in terms of what he should do and how he should conduct himself if he's ever pulled over by a police officer?
Oh, absolutely. Regularly.
And can you share some of that information with us? Because many African American dads, I've seen many of them break down and cry when they speak in terms of their sons and the fear that they have of their young sons being killed by the police, and the information that they will give their son to share if they are pulled over.
Well, I think because of a lot of fathers have experience being pulled over unjustly. So I kind of share my experiences with him. And number one thing I stress with him is make sure that you're respectful and watch your tone of voice. And of course, don't make any sudden moves. And sometimes, I stress, don't be fearful. Try not to be fearful or show that, you know. Um, just be respectful, stay calm, and not make any sudden moves. I mean, and of course, as believers, we pray for our children.
Mhm.
So those are practical things I try to tell him. And, you know, I mean, there's not much we can do outside of that, as far as when we interact with law enforcement, stay respectful, be respectful, stay calm, and don't make any sudden moves. Talk to them like a human being, and hopefully uh, you get that in return.
Has your son ever shared that he may be fearful at any time if an officer approaches him, or has he ever shared any type of anxiety that he has with police?
No, you know how teenagers are. They kind of, yeah, not yet. But I think he was pulled over um, several months ago, and I think it went fairly well. I don't think he had any issues.
Okay, very good. Very good. The Michigan shooting that we just witnessed, what are your thoughts as it relates to the accessibility of weapons? Young people having access to weapons and being able to get the weapons so readily, and it's resulting in the deaths of other innocent kids. These school shootings, you have uh, young kids and teenagers. What are your thoughts as it relates to the Michigan shooting? The parents purchased a weapon for their 15-year-old son. It was an early Christmas present. He takes the weapon to school, and the teachers had already noted some concerns with this kid, but however, there was no intervention. The kid unloads the gun on several of his classmates, and many are wounded and die. What are your thoughts? What's taking place as it relates to shootings and weapons in the hands of young people?
Well, there's a spiritual implications to it that I choose not to get into on this particular platform.
Mhm.
But I think it's important for us again to change the laws that will um, change those laws. See, I'm a gun right activist. I believe people should have um,
A Second Amendment right to bear arms.
yeah, I'm in agreement with that. However, hold parents accountable. That's number one. Number two, change those laws that don't make it so accessible for young people. Now, how do we go about doing that? That's not my area of expertise, but I believe if we change the laws that do not allow young people and certain people to have access to those weapons.
Okay. Now, I think one of the issues that people tend to have when they think about Second Amendment rights, there's a Second Amendment right to bear arms, and that right should not be infringed upon, But however, the accessibility of weapons and the accessibility that so many young people have, and the guns that's all over the urban areas and
Yeah.
so forth, That is the concern, not the right to bear arms, but the accessibility, the illegal accessibility of guns in the hands of youth or in the hands of felons, without the proper checks and balances on that weapon. And I think that is what the issue has to come down to. I think people get so up in arms over the issue that we lose rationale and reason, and we do not look at the fundamental concern. No one's taken away the right. That's a fundamental right. But we are looking at who has access to that right. If that individual is unstable, if that individual is underage, and if that individual is a known dangerous felon. That's enough to give some protection around accessibility to that weapon.
Absolutely. I asked a student, like I said, I spent a lot of time in the classroom, and we asked students how was it easy for them to get a gun. They said, "Oh yeah, no problem." Say, "How soon do you want it?" I said, "No, I don't want it. I'm just asking."
Mhm.
So, these are junior high, 7th and 8th graders have access to guns. Now, who do we hold accountable?
The government, parents, society, the legislators, a lot of people.
Okay.
Especially if they're that young. We have to hold many, many people accountable. Kyle Rittenhouse, that case was interesting to me because many people saw it as a case that represented, the Republicans versus the Democrats and Second Amendment right individuals versus liberals, or was it just a practical self-defense case, or just a regular self-defense case? Many individuals are saying that you cannot create a, uh, a violent and threatening situation and then use deadly force after you have created that situation. Many people take on that position, but then the footage showed that he was under attack at some point and that he used his weapon in self-defense. What are your thoughts on that issue as it relates to Rittenhouse? And then we're asking you not as a lawyer or an expert. We're asking you as a father and as a pastor. As the pastor.
Right.
So what are your thoughts as it relates to
first of all, I wish they would have released all of the video up front, because I had one opinion based on the first clips that they released. And then later on they released other clips that kind of sway me the other way. So truth is in the eyes of the beholder right now. I don't know.
You're taking the easy way out. You're taking the easy way out. You're taking the easy way out. Do you believe that he had a right to stand his ground and to defend himself? Well, he was found now not guilty. Obviously, his lawyer did a great job. I thought he had a great attorney. But you, as a dad, as a gun, I wouldn't say you're a gun activist, but you believe strongly Second Amendment rights, and that's fine. I have nothing against the Second Amendment personally or professionally. Well, what are your thoughts as a pastor, as a dad, as it relates to Kyle Rittenhouse?
Again, the video that showed what he was doing prior to that, did he provoke that? What was his actions prior to that? That's a critical part for me. Was he trying to protect his store, or whose property? What was happening prior to that? That's what's kind of critical for me. Did he provoke this? But the video that they finally released, where it showed him being under attack, that kind of shift to the other way of protecting yourself. So it's hard to say. I can't take a side on that one because I don't know what led up to that prior to, the actual gunfire.
Okay, very good. If you can't take a position, I was kind of in the middle of the road with the Rittenhouse case. Part of me was saying that he brought a weapon to he came to a turbulent situation,
Mhm.
a protest with this serious semi-automatic weapon,
Mhm.
and it caused, violence, caused individuals to, I don't know what caused the individuals
Excited or
to,
what?
to
Oh, I'm
attack
glad you
him.
you in the middle as well.
I'm sorry.
I said I'm glad you in the middle as well.
Because part of me never wanted to make this an issue as it relates to liberals and Democrats. My issue was even though I felt it was totally inappropriate for this
Yeah,
kid to
I
have
agree.
this weapon.
I agree. I
It was
agree.
totally inappropriate for him
Absolutely.
to have the weapon in the first place. Number two, I thought the judge was inappropriate as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Judge was
Absolutely.
inappropriate. I did
Absolutely.
not agree with the judge's conduct, and I did not agree with the way the judge addressed the prosecutors in the case. However, the film, did show Rittenhouse being attacked
Running away. He
and,
was
and
running
moving away.
from you.
And so, because of that footage, he would have a right to protect himself. My question would be, why would you attack an individual with this type of weapon? So that's
Right.
the concern that I would have. Why would you do this? But nevertheless, if the footage did show that he was under attack or being threatened, and he would have a right to defend himself under those terms. So that would be my opinion. My other opinion is that the kid never should have had access to the weapon, and he never should have been there with the weapon. And there should have been some accountability that was applied to him for having the weapon versus those charges being dismissed. So that's I say a very unusual case. But in terms of making Rittenhouse the banner boy
Right.
for gun rights,
It's
I
not
think
good.
that's
That's not
going.
good at all.
No, I don't think that's necessary, in my opinion. Okay, let's try to wrap this up. Can't get through all of these issues, and but the January the 6th Capitol insurrection, the election was stolen. What are your thoughts on that?
Righteousness exalts a nation. Sin brings a reproach to any people. It was unrighteous act. Those who was involved need to be accountable. Period.
That's it.
That's it. That's it.
Well, do you what damage do you think it potentially did to our country? The fact that that type of insurrection took place on U.S. soil. What
Well,
type what type of impact do you think that may have had on our country? That the division was so severe that it resulted in a person being murdered, a person being, excuse me, people being killed,
right.
uh, shot, and all the people were hiding for their lives. What impact do you think it has? And what
Well,
advice would you give to people that are still angry about such a horrible incident?
well, it's sending a bad message that it's okay to act out like that. But I want to encourage certain people that look like us, don't do what they did because it'll be a different scenario, a whole different story. So again, um, it wasn't right. It's illegal, and individuals need to be held accountable. And those who are angry, I want to know why are they angry?
Well, there's some anger that states that if there had been African American people that ascended upon the U.S. Capitol, that the outcome would have
Mhm.
been much worse, uh,
Totally.
much more volatile, and there
Absolutely.
would not have been the support. Although the judges have not been that lenient with those individuals that have been
Mhm.
arrested and brought to
Mhm.
justice.
Well, is another one of those issues where I think we can all learn from it. And certain people like us, we can't do that. So don't use that. Or if they can do it, we should be able to. Don't do that because it was wrong. Period.
Okay. Okay. When you say certain people that look like us, in layman's term, what does that mean?
Black folks, it would have it would have been a different story, you
Okay.
know. And we probably would have had a yeah. I think that would have been mass murder if that would have happened.
Okay. Okay. So, what are your last thoughts? People that are watching and they're saying, wow, what are your last thoughts that you would like to share with individuals on today, on this evening?
Well, I just want to share that we have to begin to look beyond the box that people like to put us in as just human beings, and no longer define yourself being. It bothers me that people define themselves as a put a D or an R, Democrat or Republican. Um, you know, stop putting yourself in a box. You
Hmm.
know, life is much complicated than that. We're bigger than that. We're greater than that. Um, so I'm just encouraging people going into 2022 to don't allow people to put you in a box or limit you to a certain group of people or certain title or any of that. Be who God has called you to be, and continue to try to do great things and make
Okay.
a positive impact.
Interesting. Do not get put in a box. That is a great, that's great advice. I want to thank you, Pastor Keith Clinton, for being our guest on this evening. Thank you so much. We want to
Thank you.
thank C Joy Network, Christian radio station located in Boston, Massachusetts, for hosting us for this year, Legal Views with attorney Sheila R. Stuart. We celebrate 1 year anniversary in partnership with Minister Donnie Savage Solutions. And we thank you for that opportunity to broadcast live on CJoy Network and Live 365, excuse me. We thank you for tuning in with us this evening. We look forward to coming back to you again on January the 8th with live broadcast, new guests, new lineup for the year. You want to be with us. You do not want to miss us. Legal Views. Thank you for being a follower of the show and supporting us. Thank you, Pastor Keith Clinton, for being with us on this evening. And Daryl, the mic is yours. It is back in your hands for the next hour on CJoy Network. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.